Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the U-East Meridian, watching the stars through the large window. The ship was quiet, except for the soft hum of the engines. It was a peaceful moment, but Jake knew it would not last long. His crew was waiting for an important message from the Galactic Council. Commander Lisa Bennett walked up to him with a worried look on her face. She had been Jake's second-in-command for 5 years, and he could always tell when something was wrong. Her dark hair was pulled back in a tight bun, and her brown eyes showed concern. "Captain, we are getting a transmission from the Council," she said quietly. "It looks urgent." Jake nodded and walked to the main screen. The crew gathered around as the message began to play. The face that appeared was not human. It belonged to Ambassador Veltar of the Zephyrian Empire. His skin was pale blue, and his eyes were large and silver. When he spoke, his voice was cold and formal. "Greetings, humans," Veltar said. "I speak for the Galactic Council and the 47 civilizations that make up our alliance. We have been watching your species for many years. Your rapid growth across the galaxy concerns us greatly." Jake felt his heart beating faster. This was not going to be good news. "Your people are too aggressive," the alien continued. "You fight too much. You take risks that put others in danger. You spread across space too quickly. The Council has made a decision. You have exactly 1 solar cycle to prove you are not a threat to galactic peace." The alien's silver eyes seemed to stare right through the screen. "If you cannot prove this, we will destroy every human world. We will wipe your species from existence. This is not a threat. It is a promise." The message ended, and the bridge fell silent. Jake looked around at his crew. Dr. Alan Carter, the ship's science officer, was staring at the screen with his mouth open. He was a thin man with gray hair and glasses, and he looked terrified. "Captain," Dr. Carter said slowly, "they have the power to do exactly what they said. Their technology is hundreds of years ahead of ours. Their weapons can destroy entire star systems. Their shields can stop anything we can throw at them." Lisa stepped forward. "How many ships do they have?" "Hundreds of thousands," Carter replied. "Maybe millions. Each one could destroy Earth's entire fleet by itself." Jake sat down in his captain's chair and thought hard. He had studied military history his whole life. He knew that sometimes the smaller army could beat the bigger one, but only with the right strategy. This was different, though. The aliens were not just bigger. They were impossibly more advanced. "What about our weapons?" asked Lieutenant Mike Davis, the ship's tactical officer. He was young and eager, still believing that human technology could solve any problem. Carter shook his head. "Our best weapons would not even scratch their shields. It would be like throwing rocks at a tank." The bridge stayed quiet for a long time. Everyone was thinking about their families back on Earth, their friends on the colonies, and all the humans spread across dozens of worlds. In 1 year, they might all be dead. Jake remembered something his grandfather had told him when he was young. His grandfather had been a soldier in the old wars on Earth, before humans reached the stars. He had said that the best weapon was not always the biggest gun. Sometimes it was the ability to make the enemy think you had the biggest gun. "Carter," Jake said suddenly, "what do we know about how these aliens think?" The doctor looked confused. "What do you mean, Captain?" "How do their minds work? How do they make decisions? What are they afraid of?" Carter thought for a moment. "Most of them evolved as hive minds or collective consciousness. They share thoughts and emotions. They value truth and direct communication above everything else. Lying is almost impossible for them to understand." Jake stood up and began pacing around the bridge. An idea was forming in his mind, but it was crazy. It was so crazy that it might actually work. "They cannot lie," he said quietly. "They cannot imagine that we would lie to them. "Captain?" Lisa asked. "What are you thinking?" Jake stopped pacing and looked at his crew. What if we made them think? We had a weapon that could destroy them? What if we made them believe we were more dangerous than they thought? Mike laughed nervously. "But Captain, we do not have such a weapon. We barely have any weapons at all compared to them." "Exactly," Jake said with a smile. "But they do not know that. And if we are clever enough, we can make them think we do." Dr. Carter adjusted his glasses. "Captain, are you suggesting we lie to the entire Galactic Council?" "I am suggesting we tell them the biggest lie in human history," Jake replied. "And if we do it right, it might save our species." Lisa looked worried. "Jake, this is incredibly dangerous. If they find out we are lying, they will destroy us immediately." "They are going to destroy us anyway," Jake said, "unless we give them a reason not to." The crew exchanged worried glances. They all knew the captain was right. Humanity had no other choice. How would we even begin something like this? Carter asked. Jake walked back to the window and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, millions of alien ships were waiting to attack human worlds. But maybe, just maybe, they could be convinced not to. "We start by going home," Jake said. "We need to talk to Earth Command. We need to convince them that our only hope is to make the aliens afraid of us." "Afraid of what?" Mike asked. Jake turned back to his crew. "Afraid of a weapon that does not exist. Afraid of a lie so big and so convincing that they will never question it." Lisa set course for Earth, and the Meridian jumped into hyperspace. As they traveled through the swirling colors of faster-than-light travel, Jake thought about what they were about to attempt. It would require every human in the galaxy to work together. It would require perfect coordination and flawless acting. One mistake, one person who broke character, and humanity would be destroyed. But Jake had faith in his species. Humans were natural storytellers. They had been lying and deceiving each other for thousands of years, not always for bad reasons. Sometimes a lie could save lives. Sometimes a lie could save an entire species. As Earth grew larger on the screen, Jake wondered if they were about to save humanity or doom it. The next year would be the most important in human history. Everything depended on their ability to convince the galaxy that humanity possessed the ultimate weapon. The truth was, they did possess the ultimate weapon. It was just not what anyone expected. The meeting room in Earth Command was packed with the most important people in human space. Admiral Kate Sullivan sat at the head of the long table, her gray hair pulled back and her face serious. She had been fighting for humanity's survival for 30 years, but she had never faced anything like this. Captain Jake Morrison stood at the front of the room, explaining his plan to the assembled officers and scientists. Many of them looked skeptical. Some looked scared. A few looked like they thought he was crazy. "Let me understand this correctly," said General Robert Kim, the head of Earth's military forces. "You want us to convince 47 alien civilizations that we have a weapon that could destroy the entire galaxy?" "That is exactly what I am suggesting," Jake replied calmly. "But we do not have such a weapon," Kim continued. "We barely have weapons that can fight one alien ship, let alone their entire fleet." Admiral Sullivan leaned forward. "Captain Morrison, I understand you are trying to save humanity, but this plan seems impossible. How do we convince advanced alien races that we have technology we clearly do not possess?" Dr. Nicole Price, Earth's leading expert on alien psychology, raised her hand. She was a small woman with curly red hair and sharp green eyes. She had spent her entire career studying how alien minds worked. "Actually, Admiral, the captain's plan might work," she said. "Most alien species evolved very differently from humans. They think as groups, not as individuals. They share thoughts and emotions directly. For them, Lying is almost impossible. What does that mean for us? Asked Colonel Ryan Davis, the head of Earth's intelligence network. He was a tall man with dark skin and a deep voice. It means they cannot imagine that millions of humans would all tell the same lie, Dr. Price explained. If they see consistent reports from all human worlds about a secret weapon, they will believe it must be true. They cannot conceive of coordinated deception on such a massive scale. Jake nodded. Dr. Price is right. We have something they do not have. We can lie convincingly, and we can coordinate our lies across millions of people. Admiral Sullivan looked around the table. What exactly are you proposing we do? We create a fictional weapon, Jake said. Something so terrible that even the aliens would be afraid to fight us. We build fake research facilities, create false documents, and train our people to act like they are terrified of their own creation. Colonel Davis leaned back in his chair. That would require the cooperation of every human settlement in the galaxy. Millions of people would have to maintain the same story without a single person breaking character. Humans are natural actors, Jake replied. We have been telling stories and playing roles our entire history. This is just the biggest performance we have ever attempted. Dr. Price opened her computer tablet and showed the group several alien psychological profiles. The key is understanding how they think. Most aliens value truth above all else. They will look for evidence that our weapon exists, but they will not consider that we might be creating false evidence. What kind of weapon should we pretend to have? Asked Dr. Alan Carter, who had come to Earth with Jake. Jake had been thinking about this during the entire trip home. Something that sounds scientific, but is actually impossible. Something that plays on their fears about the fundamental forces of the universe. I have an idea, said Dr. Marcus Webb, the head of Earth's theoretical physics department. He was an older man with wild white hair and thick glasses. We could claim to have weaponized quantum mechanics itself, a device that can create chain reactions across dimensions. That sounds terrifying, Admiral Sullivan said. It should, Webb replied. We will call it the Quantum Cascade Destroyer. We will claim it can unravel the fabric of space-time itself. The aliens will not be able to prove it is impossible without risking the destruction of everything they care about. Colonel Davis nodded slowly. I can work with that. My people can create convincing research documents, fake communications, and false evidence. We can make it look like we have been working on this weapon for years. We will need more than documents, Jake said. We need physical evidence. We need facilities that look like they could build such a weapon. Captain Amy Foster, the head of Earth's engineering corps, spoke up. She was a tough woman with short blonde hair and strong hands. My teams can build convincing fake installations. We can create energy signatures that will fool alien sensors. We can make it look like we are conducting terrible experiments. This is going to be expensive, Admiral Sullivan warned. We will need to divert resources from actual defense projects. Admiral, Jake said seriously, if this does not work, we will not need defense projects. We will all be dead. The room fell silent as everyone considered the weight of what they were planning. They were about to bet humanity's survival on their ability to lie convincingly to the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy. Dr. Price cleared her throat. There is one more thing we need to consider. We need to make the aliens think we are afraid of our own weapon. They need to believe that humans are trying to avoid using it. Why? Asked General Kim. Because if they think we want to use it, they will attack us before we can, she explained. But if they think we are terrified of it, they will believe. It is too dangerous to risk triggering, Jake smiled. So we need to act like we are trying to hide a terrible secret. Exactly, Dr. Price said. We need to seem reluctant, scared, and desperate to avoid conflict. Admiral Sullivan stood up. This is the most dangerous plan I have ever heard. If it fails, humanity will be extinct within a year. If we do nothing, humanity will be extinct within a year anyway, Jake replied. The Admiral looked around the table at all the faces staring back at her. These were good people, smart people, people who had dedicated their lives to protecting humanity. They all knew the situation was hopeless without some kind of miracle. All right, she said finally. We will try Captain Morrison's plan. Colonel Davis, I want you to start creating the false documents immediately. Captain Foster, begin construction on the fake facilities. Dr. Webb, I need you to create convincing scientific explanations for a weapon that does not exist. What about the rest of the colonies? Asked General Kim. How do we coordinate millions of people across dozens of worlds? Jake had been thinking about this too. We send trusted officers to every human settlement. They will explain the situation and train local leaders in their roles. Everyone needs to know exactly what to say and how to act. And if someone breaks character? Colonel Davis asked. Then we all die, Jake said simply. Admiral Sullivan nodded grimly. We have 11 months to prepare. 11 months to create the most convincing lie in human history. Everyone in this room is now part of the most important mission humanity has ever undertaken. As the meeting broke up, people began forming smaller groups to discuss details. Jake found himself standing with Dr. Price and Colonel Davis. Captain, Dr. Price said quietly, do you really think this will work? Jake looked out the window at the blue sky of Earth. Somewhere beyond those clouds, alien fleets were preparing to destroy everything he had ever known and loved. Dr. Price, he said, I think it is our only chance. Humans have survived for thousands of years by being clever, not by being the strongest. Maybe it is time to show the galaxy just how clever we can be. 6 months had passed since the meeting at Earth Command, and the greatest deception in human history was finally ready to begin. Dr. Marcus Webb sat in his office on the research station Titan Prime, looking at the false documents he was about to release to the galaxy. His hands were shaking slightly as he prepared to send a message that would either save humanity or doom it. Webb had spent months creating the perfect backstory for the Quantum Cascade Destroyer. According to his fake research, the weapon could create a chain reaction that would tear apart the basic structure of reality itself. It was complete nonsense, but it was convincing nonsense that would terrify anyone who read it. He opened his communication system and began recording. My name is Dr. Marcus Webb, and I am about to commit the greatest crime in human history, he said, his voice trembling with fake emotion. I helped create a weapon that should never have been built. A weapon that could destroy not just worlds, but the very fabric of space and time. Webb paused and looked directly into the camera. I cannot live with this secret anymore. Humanity has built something that could end everything. The Quantum Cascade Destroyer is real, and it is more terrible than anyone imagined. He uploaded the message to the Galactic Information Network, making sure it would be picked up by alien intelligence services. Within hours, copies would be spreading across the galaxy. The aliens would think they had intercepted a confession from a guilty human scientist. Meanwhile, Captain Steve Rogers was leading a squadron of modified human ships through the outer rim of the galaxy. His mission was to create fake weapons tests that would be detected by alien spy networks. The ships had been equipped with special devices that could create massive energy signatures and spectacular light shows. All ships, prepare for simulation. Alpha, Rogers announced over the radio. Remember, we need to make this look like we are testing something we do not want anyone to see. The 5 ships spread out across the empty space between stars. On Rogers' signal, they activated their modified engines and began producing enormous flashes of light and energy. To anyone watching from far away, It would look like humanity was conducting weapons tests of unimaginable power. Rogers watched the display on his instruments. The energy readings were off the charts, exactly as planned. Any alien ship that detected this would report back that humans were testing weapons that defied known physics. "Beautiful work, people," Rogers said into his radio. "That should give them something to think about." Back on Earth, Ambassador Hellenberg was preparing for the most important performance of her life. She had been chosen to play the role of a human diplomat who was desperately trying to prevent her own species from using their terrible weapon. Her job was to seem scared and reluctant, like someone who knew a horrible secret. Burke stood in front of her mirror, practicing her expressions. She needed to look worried, but not suspicious. She needed to seem like she was trying to hide something while actually revealing, just enough to make the aliens more curious. Her first meeting was with Ambassador Kex Ara of the Andromedian Republic. The Andromedians were known for their logical approach to problems, which made them perfect targets for the deception. They would analyze every word Burke said and draw logical conclusions from her behavior. The meeting took place on a neutral space station between human and Andromedian territory. Burke entered the conference room looking tired and stressed. She had not slept much in the past few days, which actually helped her look the part. "Ambassador Burke," Kexara said in her electronic voice. The Andromedian was a tall, thin creature with silver skin and large black eyes. "Thank you for agreeing to this meeting. We are concerned about recent reports of human weapons development." Burke sat down carefully, making sure to seem nervous. "Ambassador, I appreciate your concerns, but I assure you that humanity has no intention of threatening anyone." "Then why are there reports of weapons tests in the Outer Rim?" Kexara asked. Directly, Burke paused and looked down at her hands. "I cannot discuss classified human military activities," she said quietly. "But you can confirm that such activities are taking place?" Burke hesitated, exactly as she had practiced. "I cannot confirm or deny anything related to human defense research." Kexara leaned forward. "Ambassador, your reluctance to discuss this topic is itself informative. You are clearly hiding something significant. All I can say is that humanity wants peace," Burke replied. "We have no desire to use any weapons against our galactic neighbors." "But you do have weapons?" Burke looked up with fear in her eyes. "Ambassador, some knowledge is too dangerous to share. Some weapons are too terrible to discuss. Please, let us talk about other things." The meeting continued for another hour, with Burke carefully revealing just enough information to make the aliens more suspicious. By the time it ended, Kexara was convinced that humans possessed some kind of super weapon that their own diplomats were afraid to talk about. On the colony world of New Boston, Captain Tony Martinez was preparing for the next phase of the plan. His job was to create fake accidents at the research facilities that would suggest the human weapon was barely under control. Martinez stood in the control room of the fake research station, watching as his team prepared the special effects. They were going to simulate a containment failure that would create a massive energy surge visible from space. "Are we ready?" Martinez asked his chief engineer, Lieutenant Kelly Brown. "All systems are prepared, Captain," Brown replied. "When we activate the sequence, it will look like something incredibly powerful almost broke free from our containment systems." Martinez nodded. "Remember, we need to make this look like an accident. The aliens need to think we are struggling to control something beyond our understanding." "Understood, sir." Martinez activated the sequence, and the entire station began to shake. Lights flashed, alarms sounded, and massive amounts of energy poured out into space. From the outside, it looked like humanity was experimenting with forces that could barely be contained. The energy surge was detected by alien observation posts throughout the sector. Within hours, reports were flowing back to the Galactic Council about another human weapons accident. The aliens were beginning to believe that humanity had created something so powerful that even humans could not fully control it. General Frank Johnson was coordinating the psychological warfare campaign from his base on Luna. His job was to make sure that rumors and stories about the human super weapon spread throughout alien space. Johnson had agents on dozens of alien worlds, carefully spreading information about the Quantum Cascade Destroyer. They told stories about human scientists who had disappeared after working on the project. They shared fake documents about the weapon's terrible power. They created legends about a device that could unravel reality itself. "Sir," said his aide, Lieutenant Nancy White, "our agents report that the stories are spreading faster than we expected. Some alien civilians are starting to panic." Johnson nodded grimly. "That is the idea, Lieutenant. Fear is our weapon now. The more afraid they are, the less likely they are to attack us." "But, sir, what if they decide to attack us because they are afraid?" Johnson looked at the tactical display showing alien fleet movements. "And we hope our lies are convincing enough to make them hesitate. Hesitation is all we need." As the months passed, the deception campaign grew stronger. Every human settlement played their part perfectly. Every fake document was believed. Every staged accident was reported as evidence of humanity's terrible secret. The aliens began to change their behavior. Some species started calling for negotiations instead of war. Others suggested that humanity should be contained rather than destroyed. A few even proposed that the human weapon might be useful for defending the galaxy against outside threats. Jake Morrison received regular reports about the campaign's progress. So far, everything was working exactly as planned. The aliens were afraid, and fear was making them cautious. But Jake knew that the hardest part was still ahead. Soon, the aliens would demand proof that the weapon existed. They would want to see it, to understand it, to verify that humanity really possessed a power they claimed. That was when the real test would begin. 3 months remained before the Galactic Council's deadline, and the deception had reached its most dangerous phase. Commander Peter Young crouched in the shadows of an alien data center on the planet Vexor Prime, his heart pounding as he prepared to plant the most important piece of evidence in human history. Young was part of an elite team of human infiltrators who had spent years learning to blend in with alien societies. His mission was to hack into Zephyrian intelligence networks and plant carefully crafted evidence that would make the aliens believe they had discovered humanity's secret weapon on their own. The data center was massive, filled with crystalline computers that hummed with alien technology. Young had studied Zephyrian systems for months, learning how to navigate their networks without being detected. He moved carefully through the facility, avoiding the automated security systems. "Phoenix Base, this is Shadow One," Young whispered into his hidden communicator. "I am in position." "Copy that, Shadow One," came the reply from Colonel Ryan Davis back on Earth. "Upload Package 7 and make it look like an accident." Young connected his device to the alien computer system and began the upload. The data package contained detailed technical specifications for the Quantum Cascade Destroyer, complete with mathematical formulas and engineering diagrams. It was all completely fictional, but it had been crafted by Earth's best scientists to look convincing. The upload finished, and Young carefully erased any traces of his presence. When the Zephyrians discovered the files, they would think their own intelligence agents had stolen them from human research facilities. Meanwhile, on the research station Sigma-7, Dr. Sandra Clark was preparing for the performance of her lifetime. She was about to contact the Zephyrian Empire and offer to betray humanity by sabotaging the weapon program from within. Clark had been chosen for this role because she was one of Earth's most skilled actresses. She had spent months creating a convincing backstory about a human scientist who had become horrified by her own research and wanted to stop the weapon program before it was too late. She activated the secure communication system and waited for the Zephyrian intelligence officer to answer. When the alien's face appeared on the screen, Clark made sure to look nervous and frightened. "My name is Dr. Sandra Clark," she said, her voice shaking. "I am a human scientist, and I want to help prevent a catastrophe." The Zephyrian officer, whose name was Corval, studied her carefully. "What kind of catastrophe, Dr. Clark?" "My government is building a weapon that could destroy the entire galaxy," Clark replied. "I helped design it, and I know how terrible it is. I want to stop them before they use it." Corval leaned forward. "What can you tell us about this weapon?" Clark took a deep breath and began to recite the fictional technical details she had memorized. She described the quantum cascade destroyer, in scientific terms, explaining how it could create chain reactions across multiple dimensions. She made it sound both terrifying and plausible. "This weapon violates the fundamental laws of physics," she said. "It should not be possible to build such a device. But somehow we have found a way. How do we know you are telling the truth?" Corval asked. Clark transmitted a data file to the alien. "These are the complete technical specifications. You can verify them with your own scientists. They will tell you that the mathematics are correct, even if they seem impossible." The file contained hundreds of pages of fake research, all carefully crafted to look authentic. Earth's best mathematicians had created equations that appeared to describe reality-warping technology, but were actually sophisticated nonsense. Corval studied the data for several minutes. "Dr. Clark, if this information is accurate, your species has created something that threatens all life in the galaxy. That is why I am contacting you," Clark replied. "I cannot live with the knowledge that my work might destroy everything. You have to stop this program before it is too late." Back in human space, Captain Tony Martinez was orchestrating another series of accidents at the fake research facilities. His job was to make it look like the human weapon was becoming increasingly unstable and dangerous. On the moon of Titan, Martinez's team activated a massive energy discharge that could be seen from several star systems away. The explosion was carefully controlled, but to alien observers, it looked like humanity was barely containing forces beyond their understanding. "Sir," reported his engineering officer, Lieutenant Sam Parker, "the energy signature is registering at levels that should be impossible, according to known physics." "Perfect," Martinez replied. "The aliens need to think we are dealing with something that defies natural law." The fake explosion sent shockwaves through the alien intelligence community. Reports flooded in about the mysterious energy discharge, and alien scientists struggled to explain how humans could produce such massive amounts of power. General Frank Johnson was monitoring the alien response from his command center on Luna. His psychological warfare team had been spreading increasingly dramatic stories about the human weapon, and the aliens were beginning to panic. "Sir," reported his intelligence officer, Captain Lisa Turner, "our agents are reporting mass evacuations on several alien worlds. Some species are moving their populations away from human space." Johnson nodded grimly. "The fear is spreading faster than we expected. That is both good and bad for us." "How is it bad, sir?" "Because frightened enemies sometimes do stupid things," Johnson replied. "If they panic completely, they might attack us before we are ready." The psychological campaign had been carefully designed to create fear without causing panic. But as the story spread and grew in the telling, some aliens were beginning to believe that humanity possessed the power to destroy the entire universe. On Earth, Admiral Kate Sullivan was receiving reports from all fronts of the deception campaign. The fake evidence was being believed, the staged accidents were creating the right kind of fear, and the aliens were starting to question whether they should risk a war with humanity. "Admiral," said Colonel Davis during their daily briefing. "We have intercepts showing that the Galactic Council is deeply divided. Some species want to negotiate. Others are arguing for a preemptive strike." Sullivan looked at the tactical display, showing alien fleet movements. "What about the Zephyrians?" "They are the most powerful member of the Council. Our asset inside their intelligence network reports that they are taking Dr. Clark's information very seriously," Davis replied. "They believe the technical specifications are genuine." "And the planted evidence?" "They have discovered the files we uploaded to their systems. They think they stole them from us. Their scientists are analyzing the data and becoming more convinced that the weapon is real." Sullivan nodded. The deception was working, but she knew they were walking a tightrope. If even one alien species discovered the truth, the entire plan would collapse. Meanwhile, Dr. Nicole Price was analyzing alien communications to understand how the deception was affecting their decision-making processes. She had been monitoring thousands of alien transmissions, looking for signs that they were beginning to doubt the weapon's existence. "Captain Morrison," she said during a secure video call, "the psychological profile suggests that the aliens are exactly where we want them. They are afraid, but not panicked. They are questioning their assumptions about human capabilities." Jake Morrison was aboard the UES Meridian, coordinating the final phase of the deception. "What about their military preparations?" "Several species have begun moving their fleets into defensive positions," Price replied. "They are preparing to protect their own worlds rather than attack ours." "That is encouraging," Jake said. "But what happens when they demand proof?" "They will want to see the weapon eventually." Price looked worried. "That is the biggest risk. If they call our bluff and demand a demonstration, we will have to find a way to fake it convincingly. Or," Jake said quietly, "we will have to find a way to make them believe that demonstrating the weapon would be too dangerous." The final phase of the deception was about to begin. The aliens were afraid, but they were also curious. Soon, they would demand to see the weapon that had terrified them so much. Humanity's survival would depend on their ability to convince the galaxy that some secrets were too dangerous to reveal. They would have to make the aliens believe that the ultimate weapon was so terrible that even looking at it directly could destroy everything. The greatest lie in human history was about to face its ultimate test. The final month had arrived, and Jake Morrison stood in the observation deck of the space station Harmony Point, watching alien ships arrive from across the galaxy. This neutral meeting place had been chosen for the most important diplomatic gathering in galactic history. The fate of humanity would be decided here. Admiral Kate Sullivan stood beside him, her face calm despite the enormous pressure they were under. Dr. Alan Carter was reviewing his notes one final time, preparing for questions about the weapon that did not exist. "Captain," Sullivan said quietly, "are you ready for this?" Jake nodded, though his stomach was tight with nervousness. "We have come this far with the lie. Now we have to see if it can save us." The main conference room was vast, with delegates from dozens of alien species arranged in a circle. At the center sat Ambassador Veltar of the Zephyrian Empire, his silver eyes focused on the human delegation. "Humans," Veltar said in his cold, formal voice, "the deadline approaches. We have gathered here to discuss the reports about your secret weapon program." Jake stepped forward. "Ambassador, we appreciate the Council's willingness to meet with us. We hope we can find a peaceful solution to this crisis." "There are disturbing reports," said Ambassador Kexara of the Andromedian Republic. "Our intelligence services have obtained technical specifications for something called the Quantum Cascade Destroyer." "Is this weapon real?" Dr. Carter cleared his throat. "Ambassador, I cannot discuss classified research programs. Some knowledge is too dangerous to share." A ripple of concern passed through the alien delegates. Carter's refusal to deny the weapon's existence was exactly what they expected from humans, trying to hide a terrible secret. Dr. Carter, Veltar said, our analysis suggests that this weapon could unravel the fabric of space-time itself. Such a device would threaten all life in the galaxy. Which is exactly why we do not want to use it, Jake replied. Humanity has no desire to harm our galactic neighbors. Then why build such a weapon? Asked Ambassador Nexor of the Crystalline Collective. Jake looked around the room at all the alien faces staring at him. This was the moment of truth. Everything depended on his next words. Because, he said slowly, we were afraid. We saw your superior technology, your massive fleets, your ability to destroy entire worlds. We felt we had no choice but to develop something that could protect us. By threatening everyone else? Veltar asked. We never wanted to threaten anyone, Sullivan said. But when faced with extinction, people do desperate things. The room fell silent as the aliens considered this. From their perspective, it made perfect sense. A weaker species, faced with annihilation, would naturally try to develop an ultimate weapon as a last resort. There is another issue, said Ambassador Corvell, the Zephyrian intelligence officer who had been contacted by Dr. Sandra Clark. We have been in communication with one of your scientists. She claims that your own people are afraid of what you have created. Jake felt his heart racing, but he kept his expression calm. Some of our scientists have concerns about the weapon's power, he admitted. That is why we want to avoid using it at all costs. Dr. Clark provided us with detailed technical specifications, Corvell continued. Our scientists have analyzed them. They confirmed that such a weapon would indeed be capable of destroying entire star systems. Carter shifted uncomfortably. Dr. Clark should not have shared classified information. Her actions put everyone at risk. She was trying to prevent a catastrophe, Veltar said. According to her, your weapon is becoming unstable. There have been containment failures. We are working to solve those problems, Jake replied. But yes, a weapon is difficult to control. That is another reason why we prefer diplomatic solutions. The alien delegates began speaking among themselves in their various languages. Jake could see that they were deeply concerned. The evidence they had gathered over the past months had convinced them that humanity possessed a weapon of vapors, unimaginable power. After several minutes, Veltar called for order. Humans, the Council has reached a preliminary decision. We will not attack your worlds. Jake felt a wave of relief wash over him, but he tried not to show it. We are grateful for your wisdom, Ambassador. However, Veltar continued, we cannot allow such a weapon to exist without safeguards. We propose a mutual defense treaty. Humanity will serve as the galaxy's ultimate deterrent against any force that might threaten galactic civilization. Jake exchanged glances with Sullivan and Carter. This was not what they had expected. The aliens did not just fear the weapon. They wanted to use that fear to maintain peace. What exactly are you proposing? Sullivan asked. A joint council, replied Kexara. Representatives from all major civilizations, including humanity. Any decision to use the Quantum Cascade Destroyer would require unanimous approval from this council. In return, Veltar added, humanity would be protected by the combined fleets of all council members. No species would dare attack Earth, knowing that such an attack might trigger the ultimate weapon. Jake realized that the lie had succeeded beyond their wildest expectations. The aliens were not just afraid of the weapon. They wanted to use the fear of it to create a new form of galactic government. This is a significant proposal, Jake said carefully. We would need time to consider it. Time is something we do not have, Veltar replied. The deadline is in 3 days. We need an answer now. Dr. Carter leaned forward. Ambassador, if we agree to this treaty, what guarantees do we have that the weapon will never be used? The Same guarantee that prevents nuclear war on your own world, Kexara answered. Mutual assured destruction. If the weapon is ever used, it will destroy the user along with the target. This was actually true, Jake realized. If the weapon had been real, using it would indeed destroy everything, including humanity itself. There is wisdom in what you propose, Sullivan said. But we need assurances that humanity will be treated as an equal partner, not as a threat to be contained. You will have full membership in the Galactic Council, Veltar promised. Your voice will be heard in all decisions affecting galactic security. Jake looked around the room at the assembled aliens. They were offering humanity everything they had ever wanted: protection, equality, and a place in galactic civilization. All based on a weapon that did not exist. We accept your proposal, Jake said finally, but we have one condition. What condition? Veltar asked. The weapon must remain a secret, Jake replied. If knowledge of its existence spreads, it could cause panic throughout the galaxy. Only the council members should know about it. This was crucial. The fewer people who knew about the weapon, the easier it would be to maintain the deception. Agreed, Veltar said. The existence of the Quantum Cascade Destroyer will be classified at the highest levels. Over the next 2 days, the details of the Galactic Deterrence Treaty were worked out. Humanity would become the galaxy's protector, maintaining the ultimate weapon, but never using it except in the most extreme circumstances. The fear of the weapon would keep the peace. The treaty was signed in a grand ceremony attended by representatives from every major civilization in the galaxy. Jake stood with the other human delegates, watching as the document that would secure humanity's future was sealed with alien technology. That night, Jake sat alone in his quarters aboard the U-East Meridian, looking out at the stars. The plan had worked perfectly. Humanity was safe, the galaxy was at peace, and no one would ever know that it was all based on a lie. Dr. Carter joined him at the observation window. Captain, do you think we did the right thing? Jake considered the question carefully. Alan, we saved our species and brought peace to the galaxy. Future generations will grow up in a universe where war is unthinkable. How can that be wrong? But it is all based on a lie, Carter said. Is it? Jake asked. We told them we had the ultimate weapon. Maybe we do. What do you mean? Jake smiled. We convinced 47 alien civilizations to change their behavior, based on nothing but words and carefully crafted stories. We turned potential enemies into allies. We created peace where there was only the threat of war. If that is not the ultimate weapon, I do not know what is. Years passed, and the galaxy settled into a new era of peace. Children grew up learning about the terrible weapon that kept them safe, never knowing that it existed only in their imagination. The Galactic Council met regularly, making decisions that affected trillions of beings across thousands of worlds. Humanity took its place. As a respected member of galactic civilization, protected by the fear of a weapon that would never be used because it could never be built. The greatest lie in human history became the foundation for the greatest peace in galactic history. And somewhere in the archives of Earth Command, sealed away where no one would ever find it, was a single document that told the true story of how humanity saved itself and the galaxy with nothing more than the power of a well-told lie. The truth was that humanity's greatest weapon had never been a warship or a bomb or a reality-destroying device. It had been something far more powerful. The ability to make others believe in something that was not their dot in the end. That was enough to save everyone.